Here we go. Welcome, everyone. It's 3 o'clock Central, so we're going to go ahead and get started here. Welcome to the Preparing for and Moving to QuickBooks Online class. A little bit about myself. I'm Amy Marks, and I get to be your instructor for the next hour here. I teach both desktop and QBO classes, and also I am one of the instructors that answers questions with the VIP Q&A. I've been an instructor since 2007, so I've been an instructor here for a little while now. So that's a little bit about my background. Now, what are we going to learn today? So we've got just an hour. We've got it packed full of great things to learn. We're going to talk about 2 different ways to move your data from QuickBooks Desktop into QuickBooks Online. And we'll talk about deciding which method you're going to use as you start this process. We're also going to discuss, once the data is in QuickBooks Online, how do we make sure that everything transferred successfully? And going through, we're going to use some reports to verify that all of the information has moved. And then hooking things back up, getting our banking connected, setting up users, getting it to where we can continue day to day from there. So that'll be the topics that we go through here in this next little bit. This is our Build 'em company file, and this would be just like your desktop file that you would be using to put all of your information in. Now, if we're moving over to QuickBooks Online, we don't necessarily want to have to start from scratch, right? We want to have the information and all of the transactions and balances that we've got in our desktop software, and we want to move that over into online so that we can then continue moving forward with online. So when we go into our chart of accounts here, you'll see we've got various accounts. We've got bank accounts, credit card accounts, all of the balances that are associated with those, right? So one thing I'm going to talk about more in just a minute is the idea that we want to make sure that the data, the information that we're transferring is good information, right? So one of the things you want to make sure you're doing before you think about transferring this over into online is to make sure that we have accurate information, that all of our bank accounts, that all of our credit card accounts, that they're reconciled and up to date. And if that's not the case in your company file, if you've got some messy information, maybe information that you can't really rely on the numbers to know that they're accurate, I'm going to talk about another option that you'll have for bringing over just list information. And we'll talk about that in a minute. Now, the idea that we've got our data, it's in good shape, everything's reconciled. Well, we're ready to move that into QuickBooks Online. Now, as we go through this process, there's 2 different ways to make this happen. One is under our company menu. And this would be for the idea that you have Pro, Premier. You can do this right under your company menu. You have the option export your company file to QuickBooks Online. And when you click that, it opens up and we can make our selections about which company file we're going to be moving the data into. So brings up our window to transfer here. Now, remember I said that was for Premier and Pro, right? Well, what about Enterprise? What if you use Enterprise? In that case, you're going to need to use the keyboard shortcut in order to transfer the data. And we also recommend use the keyboard shortcut if you're transferring payroll information. So if you're processing payroll in desktop, this would also be the way to do that as well. Now, it's quite a combination of shortcuts here. So the first thing that we need to do is open up the products and services window. And you can use the F2 button on your keyboard to bring up the products and services window. Now, once you have this window displayed, you're going to hold down Control, the letter B, and then hit the letter Q. So I'll say that again. So once you get the product information screen open, use the F2 to open that. You'll hold down Control, hit the letter B, and then the letter Q. So it's 3 keystrokes combined there. Once you've done that, you say OK, and it opens up the window to transfer our data from desktop to online. And so if you're using, remember, Enterprise, or if you're transferring payroll, we recommend the keyboard shortcut to do that. Now, you've got a couple of choices here. You could say, I'm ready to move. And that would be starting my QuickBooks subscription right now. I also have the option that I can try it first. And this is going to be our 30-day free trial. So if I choose this option, we then get a question here about the inventory. Now, inventory, when we make this transition from desktop to online, the inventory valuation is going to be a bit different here. In desktop, our inventory valuation, it is average cost based. So average cost, that means QuickBooks is looking at the total quantity of the inventory that you purchased and the total dollar amount that you spent, and it divides it out and gives you the average cost. Well, in QuickBooks Online, the inventory is valued first in, first out. So the first amounts that we're purchasing are the first amounts that are expensed when we sell the inventory. So that's what this question relates to here. So it's asking, do we want to transfer the inventory? So if you choose not to transfer the inventory, you can say, no, don't move the inventory. If you want to move the inventory, you would make your selection here, say yes, track inventory using FIFO, and then you'll need to pick a date. Now, the date I would recommend start at the beginning of the year. That's when we're going to want to show the information using the FIFO method here. So I'm going to put in January 1st of 22, and that'll be the starting date where it starts that FIFO. And once we click continue, I have the option sign me in, or I don't have a sign in, I need to create one. Now, if you're creating a sign in, it is really very simple. It's just putting in your email address, your mobile phone so that you can get verification codes, and then choosing your password. Just really those couple of details, and you can create the file right from here. Well, this is kind of like a cooking show. You know, we mix up the cake and then we pull out this beautiful cake baked right out of the oven here. And so I've got a login that I'm going to use, and we're going to convert our data into the company file that I have set up. So we're going to say, yes, I do have a login, sign me in. So now as we look at this and I click continue, it's going to have me put in my email and password. And we'll just enter that account information that we've created. Or like I said, choose set one up and you can create that login right from here. Now it's got our company file name. And so there's our Build 'em Inc. company file, and we'll choose upload. Now this process does take a couple of moments here. You can see it's going through. Now, if you have a large data file, this could take a little bit more time, but ours moved there through there pretty quick. It'll tell you you'll get an email. It does say in the next 12 hours, usually happens a lot faster than that. And so we're going to click got it. Now, all of this data that was here in our desktop information has now transferred over into our QuickBooks Online account. So we are going to open up and log in to that QuickBooks Online account. So sign in page, you can go to the QuickBooks website and choose sign in the top corner. You're able to put in your email and password and choose sign in. Now it's talking about bringing in the financial data. We're going to see that it's already pushed over the details from our QuickBooks Desktop. But if we look at this now, we can come over to our dashboard and business overview. I just want you to see that all of that data that we had in our QuickBooks Desktop is now over here in QuickBooks Online. And so we've got all of our checking accounts, our credit cards, our customer balances, all the different financial details that are here. Now, with our data that's here, we want to make sure that everything transferred successfully and that all the information is here. Now, what we're going to do, come back to my little PowerPoint here, make sure my screen changes. What we're going to do is review some reporting. So we've got 4 different reports that we want to review here. And what we're going to do is generate that report in desktop, and then we'll generate that report in QuickBooks Online, and we're going to sit the two side by side. And we're going to take the time to go through each and every number, making sure that all of that information is there and all the information came in to QuickBooks Online accurately. All right, so let's set these side by side. I'm going to push my QuickBooks Online off to one side. I'm going to put my desktop on the other. And we're going to pull those same 4 reports. We'll go through the reports and we'll pull them in both of the programs. Now I'm doing this side by side. If this was in the real world, I would print these reports off so that I could have them in front of me and I would highlight and mark, go through them. But we're going to look at it on the screen just because of our webinar situation here. So let's go to reports. We'll start with the financials. So profit and loss report. And we're going to say this year. So I want to have the details there. Okay, so this is the desktop report. Now over here in QuickBooks Online, we're going to come into the reporting area here, and we're going to generate that same profit and loss report. So here I can come up in my find area, and with the reports, we've got same profit and loss report here. And so there's our profit and loss. So now let's get the right time frame here. So we want this year on both of these. And collapse that. Get to my, there we go. All right, so now we've got the numbers, and we're just going to go through number by number to make sure everything matches. So here I've got construction income, 155, 145. Construction income, 155,000, 145. It's the same number. 750 and 750. And you'll see we'll just go through number by number, making sure that each one of these numbers are consistent and that everything has transferred successfully. So now I'm not going to go through the entire report, but you want to take the time to look at each and every one of those numbers, number by number. Okay, so that's the profit and loss. We're also going to do the same thing with the balance sheet. So we'll open up our balance sheet reports. And with our balance sheet report here, we're going to say it is this year. And my little run button is not cooperating today. There we go. All right, so there we go. And on our desktop side, we're going to do the same thing. So here, company and financial, we'll open up the balance sheet standard, and we're going to say this year. And again, going through number by number, making sure everything matches. So 92,833.05, 92,833.05. And so you can see this process of going back and forth. And this is just really important because we want to make sure that before we just start entering information into QuickBooks Online, that all of that has transferred successfully. So we would look at our balance sheet that same way. And we would also look at the accounts receivable and the accounts payable aging. So customers and receivables, you got your AR aging summary. We would also come down vendors and payables, and you got your AP aging summary as well. Same thing on the online side. So if we go into our reports, we can put in here aging, and you've got an accounts payable aging summary, an accounts receivable aging summary. So those four reports, those are going to be the reports that you want to verify that we make sure that, okay, everything is transferred, all the information is there. Now, we talked about this idea that, you know, the information in desktop was good information, right? Well, what if it's not? There are times, you know, we recommend using that built-in method and transferring all of that data over, but there are also times where that doesn't work the best. And it would be situations where you have messy information. Yeah, maybe QuickBooks wasn't used properly, and that the information in your desktop software has never been reconciled. You can't really rely on the balances, the numbers, the amounts that your customers owe, or anything like that. Well, if we have a messy situation in desktop, I wouldn't want to take that messy situation and use that to start my online file. All right, we want to take that opportunity to start fresh, start from scratch, and put in the balances and move forward with information that we know is accurate. So in that instance, you are going to be able to transfer just list information and take just simply the list details from your QuickBooks Desktop to start the online file. Another time that we would recommend going that route is if you've got sales tax. And if you have sales tax where you've got complicated sales tax in multiple states, things like that, it would be a good idea to transfer the list information and start from scratch. Or it could be that the file is too large. Now, remember that F2 button. We're going to come back to that. The F2 button, when we're here in our desktop, we open up and it's the product information screen. And specifically what I want to point out here is the targets. So when we talk about the file being too large to move from desktop into online, it's not necessarily the file size, but the targets. And that comes down to the specific line entries in all of the transactions. Now, the total targets in your company file must be under 750,000. This one's got 2,774. So that is that's a lot of information there. So it has to be under 750,000 targets. However, if you have, multiple years of information, you might have a file where the targets exceed that. That number used to be 350,000, but is now has been moved up to 750,000 targets. So that's something you want to check. So if it's larger than that, you can move the list information and start with beginning balances moving forward in online. And also, some of the scenarios might be related to the specific features that don't convert. So how you're using some of the lists, the way the information's set up, you might not want to feed that information over. So I've got another website here I'm going to share with you. And this is a really great reference here. This is called What to Expect When You Switch from Desktop to Online. I am going to put this in the chat area and go ahead and just chat that out to you so you guys can pull this up if you'd like. Now, as we're going through this conversion, all the different areas, it breaks down each of the different areas and we can see what will or won't transfer. So for example, if I click on customers and jobs, I'll see here, well, my jobs are going to convert to sub-customers in QuickBooks Online. The entire ship to address is placed in the main address field. These are the things that will convert over. Address, contact information. These are things that won't convert. So any custom fields, the credit limit, different details there. So this is a great little reference as you're looking at this process, and we're going to be moving our data from desktop to online. Well, what will convert, what won't convert, and you can go through each of the different areas, viewing what's going on here. So, for example, let's pick another one here. Budgets. Your budget, only the profit and loss budget converts. So if you have a budget in the desktop that's based on balance sheet, if you're in Premier or Enterprise, that one isn't going to convert. And it's only going to be available depending on the plan. You've got to have a plan that allows the budget to feed in. So these are going to be real helpful areas as you're looking at what will and won't transfer, right? So with those things in mind, messy info, complicated sales tax, the file's too large, or depending on where your information is stored and how you want that to come over, well, in those cases, you might want to just convert list information. Now, we have 4 lists that can be converted: your customers, your vendors, your accounts, so your chart of accounts, and your items and services. Items and services, those are called products and services in QuickBooks Online. So those are the 4 lists that could be converted. Now, when we do this, we're going to take the information from desktop into Excel and then pull the list information into QuickBooks Online from Excel. So you're going to start with reports. We're going to head to reports. We're going to come down to the list area, and you'll see we have a variety of different list reports. So an account listing, that would be the chart of accounts. Items, that's products and services. Customer contact list, vendor contact list. So those would be your starting point. Now I'm going to go with the chart of accounts because there are some things that we need to know here if we're converting accounts. When you pull up one of these reports, you can export this to Excel. You could get rid of lines that we don't need here. So using the 3 little dots, you take from the right-hand side of the header, pull it past the left-hand side and release. And you can get rid of columns and areas where we don't need that information. I could do that right here before I save it as an Excel file. We're going to head up to the top of the report, and here the Excel option, we're going to say create a new worksheet. And when I select that, it opens up and it's asking in a new workbook, so a brand new Excel file or an existing Excel file. And we're going to say in a brand new Excel file, and we'll choose export here. Now you can do some more cleanup once it's in Excel. Here it's opening up in Excel. If there's blank columns, you can get rid of those. You can click on that column and we can delete the column. If you have accounts in here that you don't want to convert over, you can highlight and even multiple rows at a time and delete those entries here. Now, we need the account name, the account type, but we also need a third column when it comes to QuickBooks Online, and that is the detail type. And so I would just add a header here for detail type, and then you need to go through and supply the detail type. Now let's head back to my PowerPoint here. I'm going to pull this up. I'm going to leave this up for you. So in QuickBooks Online, these are all of the different account types, and these are all of the detail types. Now, these detail types, I've just chosen one of the detail types for each area. So for example, expenses, you have a whole bunch of different detail types for expenses. But when we do this conversion, we're just going to choose one basic expense type as the one to feed in. So this is a kind of a template that you could use for creating that chart of accounts file to integrate. Now, notice here we've got the details. So like here, other liabilities. Oops, I just clicked in it, went forward. Other current liabilities. Well, in that Excel file, if we scroll down to our liabilities here, it's other current liability. So this one is singular, the other is plural. So you're going to need to go through and make sure that you edit your list so that it has those specific types. So I could change the type, and then we can fill down. These should all be liabilities, right? So you've got to make sure that it all matches up with these specific types. Now for each one, so like the bank account, we'll go with cash on hand. So I can enter that for my bank type. I can say cash on hand, and then we can copy that for the other bank accounts. So it's going to take a little bit of work to get these lists in a place where they're ready to pull over. So each of those detail types based on the specific type. Now I have got a file that I've spent a little bit of time working on, and I've got all of the specific types and detail types modified so that we can import that. So let's go into a QuickBooks Online file. Now, when we're starting with just list information, you would start by going to the QuickBooks website. This is the pricing page, and you would choose which plan to sign up for. This gives you an account with just an empty company file where we can start pulling in the list information and starting from there. So we can review the plans. I can select. So maybe I choose plus. I can click select. Actually, and I need to go back. I didn't get the slider there. So at the top, there is an option, buy now, save for 3 months, or free 30-day free trial. So make your selection. We're going to do a 30-day free trial here for our class example. So I'm going to say try it free. I chose plus. It gives me the payroll plans, and I could continue without the payroll, and then I could check out. And that would give me the window to put in my email, my mobile phone number for validation, getting a code, so security-wise to log in, and my password, right? Now, again, it's kind of like one of those cooking shows. So I have a company file that is an empty file that's created. So we're just going to log in. I'm going to choose the sign-in option, and we're going to log into that empty company file. Okay, so here I've opened up, this is our lists only company file, and I've opened this up, and it's asking right off the bat, hey, do we want to bring in data from QuickBooks Desktop? We're not going to bring that data over with all the balances, all the information. We are just going to bring in the list information, right? So now we actually have zeros across the board. So we don't have any balances here, right? So what we're going to do is go into the gear, and we'll choose the option import data. Now, this is going to give us the option for those 4 lists that we can import: customers, vendors, accounts, and products and services. Now, I've got the chart of accounts. We've spent some time with the Excel file. We've got that, in shape, the way it needs to be to bring it in. So let's use that one. So I'm going to click on the chart of accounts, and it's asking me to browse to where I've got that saved. Now, I did an Excel file, so that's what I'll be using. But you'll notice it also has Google Sheet, CSV, so you got some other options there. Now, we're going to browse. We're going to go into the folder where we have that. And here I've got my Excel file, chart of accounts, and I've selected the file. When I click next, it's got the 4 details here. Now, I added that detail type column. So we've got that here, and you'll notice it's using the headers that I created. It does need a header row in order to do this. So you'll create that header row. So we got the detail type, the name, that one was already there for us, right? We aren't using account numbers, but you'll see here, if in your desktop file you had account numbers on your chart of accounts, you would be able to pull those in and have the account number there as well. And then we have the type, right? So I've got the different areas. We're going to click next, and I can preview all that information. So we've got 90 different accounts to import, and you've got each of the accounts, the types, and the detail type there. Now, as you scroll through, if you see any of these that are red, if the type or detail type is red, you're going to need to look at that. So for example, if this said expense instead of expenses, when I tried to pull it in, it would be red, and it would either need to go adjust the Excel file or choose the right type from the drop down here. So that's why it's so important that you match everything up to this table here in order to import any of that list information. Okay, so let's go ahead and say import. Now, when we import, it's going to tell us 83 of the accounts were successfully imported. Some of it didn't import because it was already in QuickBooks. So there were some predefined accounts that were already here, interest expense, utilities, and those were already here. So it didn't bring those ones in. Now, once we've imported our list, we brought in 83 of those accounts here. When we go to our chart of accounts, now we can see our specific bank accounts, our specific assets, the equipment that we've purchased, credit cards that we have, the loans that we have, equipment loans. And so all of that account information is here. You would go through and repeat the same process for each of your different lists that you want to import. So the gear, import data, and you've got customers, vendors, accounts, and products and services. Now, if you have the accounts in here, then we need to give QuickBooks a starting point, right? And we want to make sure that we're putting in all of the beginning balances before we start entering transactions. And best time of the year to start a company file is the beginning of the year, right? So we're going to go with a January 1st start date, but keep in mind, you could have a fiscal year that starts at any time throughout the year. So I would recommend going with the beginning of your year. Now, as we come into the accounts here, we're on the chart of accounts. So I'm under accounting and the chart of accounts. This looks a little bit different than our chart of accounts list did in desktop, but it's all the same accounts here. We've brought all of those over from desktop. So we can come in under the action drop down and choose edit. Opens up the edit window, and we're able to put those beginning balances in. So under the drop down, I can choose beginning of this year, beginning of the month, today, or other. If I choose other, I can type in any date that I need. So I'm going to go with beginning of the year, and it's asking what was my account balance on 12/31/2021. So I would enter that beginning account balance, $75,850.75. And when I save and close, we can now see that beginning account balance. And you would go through and edit each of your balance sheet accounts. So any of our bank accounts, our credit card accounts, assets, liabilities, and equity accounts. And we're going to be adding in the beginning balances for each of these different accounts here. Now, once we've done this, at that point, we can start entering information. And you would start from January 1, entering all of that information up to today. Now, it's only February. So if we're making this transition and we've chosen to just bring over the list details from QuickBooks, well, we've only got a month and a half or so here where we have to fill in that history before we're up to date, if you're beginning with January 1st. And so this is what I'm saying there is it's a good time to start doing this and starting from scratch this way, because we don't have 8 months worth or 6 months worth of information to re-enter here. Now, you could re-enter it right off of your bank statements. You could take your January statement and you could enter transactions right off of your statement. Now, the other way that you can go about this is to link your bank and credit card accounts. And that's one of the really fabulous features with QuickBooks Online. is the ability to feed in the information and record transactions, many transactions, more quickly. There are still transactions you need to enter by hand, customer invoices, bills for our vendors, payments for customers, deposits, things like that. But credit card transactions, debit cards, all of those things can be added right from the bank download. Now, we have a banking section here. When we go to banking, we're going to see there's the option there to connect accounts. Now, on the 22nd, there's an entire class just about connecting and reviewing the banking information here. But you'll see the process for this to get it connected is pretty easy. But reviewing the transactions, you really want to make sure you know what you're doing when you go to review the transactions, because we don't want any doubled up transactions. We want to make sure that all the transactions are headed to the proper expense accounts so that our financial statements are accurate. When we connect the accounts, click connect, it's going to ask us what financial institution. So if ours was a Chase account, we choose Chase Bank. We then get the message, we're going to be logging into our account, and we click continue, and you would enter the login information, username and password that you use to log into your account, your bank or credit card account. And that would create a link where it will feed the information into QuickBooks, and then we can review those transactions there. So like I said, on the 22nd, we have an entire class that'll be all about that banking area there. Okay. So with this idea, you either bring in the desktop data, bring in all the balances, all the account information, all the details, and then we can start from there moving forward. Or we start with an empty company file. We bring over the list information, customers, vendors, accounts, and products and services, bring over that list information, and then start moving forward from the beginning balances and enter the transactions from our beginning balances up to the current date. So those are kind of our two options there. Now, when it comes to hooking things back up, because once we get over here, we've got some things that we want to do so that we can start moving forward day to day. So one of those things that we're going to want to do is linking the bank account. And I kind of showed you that. You would do this even if you brought all the data over from QuickBooks Desktop. The idea is that when you connect the bank account in that situation, you're going to want to start it after your last reconciliation. So if I had everything reconciled and up to date to the end of January, I would start downloading in that case at the beginning of February. So it would either be based on your start date, you're starting from scratch, or the date after your last reconciliation. So we link up the bank and credit card accounts. Now, the other thing you're going to want to do is go in and set up users. So we'll go to the gear and choose manage users. The number of users is determined by the plan that you choose. And that's going to be what determines how many users you can set up in here. Now you can see our login, our email that we use to log in, that is the only user that's here currently. So that is one thing when we transfer data from desktop to online, it does not transfer the users. We have to come in and set up those users again. So here as the admin, I can add user. And when I choose to add a user, we've got some that count towards our user limit and some that don't. Now with the user limit, you have Simple has 1 user plus the account login. Essentials is 3 plus the account login. Plus is 5 plus the account login. And Advanced is 25 plus the account login. So these ones count towards that limit. The ones at the bottom do not. Now you have the option company admin. You could have more than one admin in the same company file. And that would be somebody who could see and do everything, right? Well, we might also have other users where we don't want them to see and do everything. And so we could limit their access. Now, with the advanced plan, you'll have custom roles, and there are some built-in custom roles, built-in, ready to use. You could add your own role even. And with the roles, you have a little bit more control over who's going to be able to see and do what here. You've got your sales area, expenses, banking, inventory, workers, reports, and account management. Now, there's some work being done on this, and you'll see we've got some options that are starting to appear here. It's not quite ready yet. It's still under construction, but you'll see when we click it right now, it says it's all or nothing right now. but we can kind of see that those additional options are coming there. So you can go through and check mark off and make your selections about what that user would be able to do. So that one is for advanced plan only. Now, the standard user, that's going to be one that you'll have with Essentials or Plus or Advanced, either one of those. Now, with the standard user, you can give them full access or limited access, but they don't have the admin privileges, like setting up another user or things like that. So we're going to go with standard user, and we'll click next. It's asking how much do we want the user to access. So if we say all, these are all of the things that they can see and do. They can work with a chart of accounts. They can add, edit accounts. They can set up customers. They can add vendors. They can view reports, see financial statements. So that's everything, except for they don't have the admin privileges. We could also say it's limited, and we could limit it to just customers, just vendors, or even a combination of the two. So if we go with customers, they can add, edit customer transactions, customer list, products and services list. They can't print a refund check. They can't view bank registers. They can't add, edit, delete accounts. If we were to give access to just vendors, well, they can do all the vendor activities, but they can't view bank registers or see the income and expense amounts on the home pages there. So you could even give a combination of the two, but they still can't view bank registers or work with the chart of accounts. Only someone who is given all access would be able to do those things. So maybe my new employee, they're going to be entering customer invoices. So I'm going to give it access just to customer invoices, and we'll click next. Should they be able to add, edit, remove users, edit company info, or manage subscriptions? That's going to be a no across the board on that one. And we're going to go ahead and click next. We'll put in that new user here, and we're going to have a little fun with this. So we're going to say the person we just hired, her name is Robin Banks. All right. So we only gave her access to the customer side of things because we were worried she would write herself out a check, right? So Robin, and we'll put Robin's email in here. And what it does when we save this, Robin's email will be her user ID to log in. And it sends an invite to Robin. You can see her status has been invited. She'll get an email saying you've been invited to view Build 'em Inc. on QuickBooks Online, and she can create her password. So now we've got two different users set up here. So you would go through the gear and you would go in and set up any of the additional users that you want to access the company. Now, one other very important area that we want to look at, and that is the account and settings area. So with the account and settings, this is the equivalent of preferences in desktop, right? And in desktop, those preferences, that's where we're telling QuickBooks how we want it to run. And that's the same idea here. When you open it up, you've got the categories going down the side, and within each of the categories, then you have the individual selections that can be made there. We've got our billing and subscription. And so here's where we can see the plan. We've got the advanced plan. We got that 30-day free trial of the advanced plan. You can upgrade your plan. So if you get in and maybe you decided to start off with essentials, but then you realize you don't have budgets or you can't track inventory or whatever it might be that you need, you can always change which plan you have here as well. We have our sales area, and you can come in your sales form content. That would be our invoices and our sales receipts. What kind of things do we want to show on that? The idea that you want to include shipping addresses or custom fields or various details on your sales forms. We also have progress invoicing. So this is the idea that you can enter an estimate and feed it into invoices. That'll be one of the things that they're going to go over in the Money In class on March 8th. So progress invoicing is currently turned off. If I wanted to use that, all I've got to do is turn on the specific area. And you'll see it's talking about the templates. There's a new template for the progress invoicing that has the specific columns and details that would be used for that type of an invoice. So you can come in, things that are not turned on, you can certainly turn them on in order to use them. The options that you'll see in your settings, it will vary depending on the plan that you have. So depending on which plan you choose, you might not see the same settings as what I'm showing here. But you have here under expenses, if we're using Plus or Advanced, so those two plans, we have the ability to track expenses and items by customer. That's job costing. So it gives us a column for our customer where we can go in and put in the specific customer or the project and get profitability reports, see how much money did we make? Here was our income. Here were all the expenses and how much money did we make kind of idea. So you can turn on those settings here. We also have some advanced settings, and here is one that's very important. So accounting method. Are we going to be pulling reports on a cash basis or an accrual basis? What do I typically want? I can always change it on a report by report basis, but what do I typically want here? And that would be selected as the default here. We also have the option for things like pre-fill. So here, automation, pre-fill forms with previously entered content. That's specifically vendor transactions. So that class on the 15th where we talk about putting in our bills and expenses and writing out checks and credit card transactions, all those, the money out transactions. If I wanted to pull in the details, the account, the details from the last time we entered a transaction for that vendor, I can turn that on. I can turn that slider on. So that's going to be that class on the 15th for the money out. We also have the credits. This is on the customer side of things. If you want QuickBooks to automatically apply any credit memos that you create, you can turn that on. If you want to have more control over it, though, by all means, leave that turned off. So this idea of the settings, it's all about telling QuickBooks how you want it to work for your business. Now we're going to scroll down to the bottom here and look at some of the other preferences. So here's a nice one. Sign me out if inactive for, and you can choose the length of time. So if I haven't done anything in a certain amount of time, 1, 2, or 3 hours, I can set that here and it just logs you out. It signs you out after that amount of time. So I might set that to 2 hours there. We could also have some warnings. We've got vendor warnings, warn when I enter a duplicate bill number, and just various settings that you might choose to come in and turn on. So this is the idea. I don't want to enter the same bill twice. A lot of times the vendor is going to send the same bill again and again. We don't want the same bill twice, so we could turn on the warning. So really this settings area is just where we're going to tell QuickBooks how we want things to run here. And one of the other really cool things when we talk about the differences between desktop and online, the settings in desktop, you have to be in a single user mode in order to come in and change settings. Well, the cool thing with QuickBooks Online, we don't have any single user mode. So all of these things that we're talking about coming in and making adjustments here, you would be able to do that even if someone else was logged in. We're able to make adjustments and changes to things. There is no single user versus multi-user. So that's another thing that's really kind of cool when we're working with QuickBooks Online here. So let me see, just want to make sure we got everything in there. So we talked about all of those different areas there. So as we went through, we talked about the 2 ways to move the data to QuickBooks Online. One is to use the built-in method, and we pushed the data from QuickBooks over into QuickBooks Online. And then we can set up our users, hook up the bank accounts, and just continue moving forward after we verify the information, and we're just off and running day to day. The second method was the idea that maybe it's messy, or maybe the file's too big, or maybe we have complicated sales tax. And so in that case, we decided to start fresh in QuickBooks Online. Well, we created an empty company file in QuickBooks Online, and then we took the data, or I shouldn't say data, we took the list information from QuickBooks Desktop and moved that list information into QuickBooks Online. We were able to set up our beginning balances and start entering information from our beginning balances, our January 1st start point, up to the current date. And again, set up our users, link the bank accounts, and we're moving forward day to day. And so we talked about each of those 3 areas, and that kind of wraps up all of our info that we have here.